Hey guys, hope you and your families are doing well. Jack Corsellis here. This video is going to be a little bit different, so I'll appreciate your feedback in the comments. I'm going to take you through the IBD 50 list, but I'm not going to show you all 50 stocks. I'm just going to show you those stocks that I think are near-term actionable for me, i.e. potentially setting up an actionable pivot point in the coming sessions, coming weeks from VCPs, cup and handles, Davis boxes, flags, so on and so forth. So I'm planning on doing this maybe once a week or so. Maybe I'll do a couple for the Market Smith Growth 250 list as well. So if you like these kind of videos that are maybe a little bit more kind of focused on potential setups that I'm looking at from IBD 50 list, from the Growth 250 list, then please do either like the video or comment down below, as I want to create the content that you guys actually like watching. So it's really helpful if I get your feedback. So I'm going to be taking you through around about 16 or so. These are all the flag ones here, so just as a reference point on this first one, you're going to be able to see the chart, which is a daily chart. There's the 10 EMA, 21 EMA, 50 SMA, and the 200 SMA. You're going to be able to see the fund ownership summary, the high quality growth funds, if any are invested, earnings, sales, after tax margins down here, earnings per share on a year-over-year basis, including the estimates. And if you take a look down here, maybe a little bit smaller on your screen to appreciate that, but you'll be able to see the industry group name. There's going to be plenty from oil and gas. You'll be able to see percentage off the 52-week high, 3-month relative strength rating as well. So let's jump on into it. The first one is actually a retail restaurant. So as much as we're seeing strength in the oil and gas commodities, healthcare, biotech, and clean alternative energy, I am keeping my eyes peeled for stocks outside of those areas displaying excellent relative strength. So what I find interesting with Wingstop here is, on the last two earnings report, see how you have this big gap up here? You have this big gap up here. You've got volume coming through, confirming it as well. You get a really nice move in here on volume as well. So it's now pulling back down to the 10 EMA, which is this pinky line in here. So this is one where it's showing a lot of relative strength. You can see that with the RS lines turning up. Now what I'd like to do is for it to consolidate around $150, maybe the 21 EMA catch up. So for me, if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know I like to target setups, breakouts from those very tight areas, look for those trigger bars. But this is looking fairly constructive. It's obviously making higher highs, higher lows. That's very, very strong, especially in the face of this week market. Volume's drying up nicely, plenty of higher quality growth funds in there, good estimates coming through with revisions and forward guidance up. So liking this one, just needs to set up. WGG is another one that I'm looking at. Now what I like here is obviously clearly the strength. I'm looking for stocks that are displaying excellent relative strength. Fidelity have moved in Q3 of 2022 and established a position. A thing that you'll see with these higher quality growth funds, especially more so Fidelity because of their size as well, instead of buying their whole position in a single quarter, they more so kind of start buying in subsequent quarters as well. Just something that I noticed, my own observation. Really like the earnings per share estimates, consistency with the earnings, the sales, the margins. Now looking at this one here for a potential cup and handle type pattern. So we're exploding up and out the right hand side of a potential cup. Now what I'm looking for is a handle to develop under $600 or around $600, but would like to see at a minimum the 10 EMA catch up. But really nice action to the prior or two earnings reports ago, and then the most recent earnings report as well. Look at the volume coming through. This is a promising sign, and obviously displaying excellent relative strength. Let's go on to the next one. We're into a couple of the oil and gas ones now. So first one up is CRK. So RS lines look good. You can see how the stock's starting to display some VCP action. See how it's starting to put in these higher lows. Now what I like is the reference point of price in relation to the key moving averages. 1021 EMA, 50 SMA is all there. You have a nice shakeout demand tail for Friday last week, depending when you're watching this, but that was for Friday last week. The date there is the 4th of November, that Friday. So I like that shakeout demand tail, undercuts the 50, the 10, and the 21 EMA. So just the case of this one can tighten up. Earnings there, sales there, after tax margins there. Big breakout year for the earnings per share, as you'll see with many of these oil and gas stocks. So CRK is one on my radar. Oil and gas stocks, just as a side note on oil and gas stocks, they have a history. Any of you have followed me for a while now, oil and gas stocks are my arch nemesis basically. They mean revert a lot. They're very kind of difficult to trade. So what I like to try and do is dial it into, okay, subject to my own sell rules on a stock, I want to try and trade the ones which actually trend best. So try and dial it into, okay, what are the oil and gas stocks that trend best? So you see the kind of bit of VCP action that goes on here, and then it starts getting nice and tight in here. See how it tightens up, see how the volume dries up, and then this really nice move nearly doubles from about $10.50 to $19, and then you start getting the undercuts of the key moving averages coming through in here. So trying to find those ones that can make kind of better moves, trend nicely on the key moving averages, what I'm trying to do with the oil and gas stocks. But a lot of strength in oil and gas stocks. MTDR, so this is a stock that I'm long. Okay, I got it coming through in here. And now what I'm looking to do actually is try and add back to my position if another pivot point sets up. So plenty of high quality growth funds coming through in there. If this can just kind of set back up again, get nice and tight, I'll actually be looking to add back to my position. So took off a third to free rolled it, but looking to add back a third if it sets back up. That looks pretty strong. FANG, another oil and gas stock, really strong. Now earnings are coming out on the 7th of November, so again, unlikely that I'm going to be looking to buy it ahead of that, really, unless it kind of tightens up and then moves for a pivot point. But looking at this here as a potential big cup and handle, so it just needs to kind of tighten up. Maybe it can tighten up ahead of that and then move for a pivot point on the earnings. I'm not too much of a fan of chasing gap ups, especially in this market, but triple digit earnings, very high sales, margins are there and accelerating, 3 high quality growth funds in there. So FANG, a lot of strength, seeing if this can build a cup and handle. MG White, another oil and gas stock. See how it's starting to go sideways here? So again, price is starting to tighten up. You had a nice strong close on Friday last week. You maybe could look at this as a double bottom pattern or a potential bit of cup and handle action going on, but just looking for price to tighten up. So I would like to see those trigger bars where price gets really, really tight. Earnings are now out of the way. They came out at plus 93%, sales plus 69%, margins plus 50%. One high quality fund in there. So this is one just needs to tighten up a little bit. Let's go on to the next one, FLNG. So a bit of VCP action going on. You can backdate the base over here, but you see how certainly in the shorter term, see how it's starting to build these higher lows coming through. Volume is starting to dry up. Good earnings coming through for the most recent quarter. Now earnings are coming out in 8 days, so depending on how it kind of sets up, I like to have free rolled my trade heading into earnings ideally and have a profit cushion to be sitting on. We're seeing a lot of strength in these oil and gas stocks, so this just needs to tighten up a little bit. Put in that trigger bar. That's one I'm watching. Another oil and gas stock is VLO. These patterns look very similar, don't they? This is a little bit more of a cup and handle, I would say, in terms of how this is developing. RS lines look good. Earnings came out plus 437%, sales plus 51%, margins plus 6.3%. Fidelity, this is kind of my point on Fidelity that I made earlier on in the video. See how they take a position in Q2 of 2022, then they add in Q3 of 2022. So nice to know that the smarter money is in there. So just watching and waiting for this handle to tighten up a little bit and see if a trigger bar forms. So that's VLO. Another oil and gas stock, this is CVI. This one a little bit stronger. You can see that from the RS lines. You can see it from the strength of the price as well. Another kind of cup and handle type pattern. Seeing a lot of cup and handles potentially forming in here. Around about $40 or so. Would like to see a trigger bar set on the 1021 EMA. So just needs a little bit of work in here. Maybe a trigger bar or two. But that looks interesting. Volume is starting to dry up. Good earnings, good sales, so on and so forth. Another oil and gas stock, I'm going to say that a couple more times in this video, is APA. Let's load that one up. So APA. Similar-ish in terms of potential cup and handle. Now what this needs to do for me is it's wedging up here, so I just want to see it go sideways a little bit. $50, nice round number. Maybe it can set up a pivot point in there, but just needs to go sideways a little bit, as do a lot of these oil and gas stocks, for me to then be looking to target it. But that one there, nice and strong. It's good to see a lot of strength in a specific industry group. Harmony Biosciences, so healthcare and biotechs is another area of the market that's strong, providing setups, not as strong, I would say, as oil and gas and some of the commodity areas. But this one here has a nice move on earnings. That was potentially a pivot point coming through here on the earnings, but really good volume coming through. Earnings were plus 132%, sales were plus 45%, after-tax margins accelerating to 49.6%. Higher quality fund takes a position in Q3 of 2022. That's never a bad fund. So sequential growth in terms of the quarter-over-quarter fund ownership. You've had a 4x increase, going from 107 funds to 441 funds, and a potential cup and handle for me. So what I like to see in cup and handles is kind of this explosive move up and out the right hand side of a cup. So you see that really powerful move, couple of shakeout demand tails coming through in there as well. Now potentially around $60, can it just tighten up for the handle and then break out through that level? But at a minimum, I want to see the 10 EMA catch up. So really nice to see. Good reaction to the earnings. It just needs a bit more time to tighten up. ANET. So this is one of the few stocks at the minute which, outside of oil and gas, commodities, healthcare, biotech, clean alternative energy, is showing some really nice relative strength. So you could be looking at this here as potentially one big base building, so a lot of causality here. Now what I'm liking here is see how these RS lines are starting to turn up. You've got 2 higher quality growth funds in there, earnings there, sales there, after-tax margins there, consistent. Forward guidance looks really good as well in terms of the earnings per share. You can see a breakout year expected in 2022 with the revisions up. Now it's clearly extended on a short-term basis, but showing a lot of relative strength. Now you could look at this here as more of a cup and handle type pattern within a larger base building, but it just needs a little bit of time to go sideways. So this is what I'm looking for. Go sideways, at least let the 10 catch up. But I'm liking the volume that's coming through on this recent rally. RS lines turning up, just watching and waiting on this one. Another one which is outside of those areas that I was talking about. This is pure storage. So breakout year for the earnings per share coming through. Earnings in the four most recent quarters have been triple digits. Sales pretty high, double digits as well. After tax margins look pretty good as well. One high quality growth fund is in there. RS lines are turning up, so you could look at this potentially as one big base, and now you're starting to get some VCP action going on, generally speaking, within the base as well, starting to build high lows, high highs. Now it just needs a little bit of work over the coming week or so, maybe a couple of weeks, depends how it kind of shapes up, if it shapes up obviously, but just looking for it to tighten up around the 1021 EMA. But this one here is looking good. Earnings are out of the way, so one less thing to have to think about. EXLS, this stock here, very strong. You can see positive reaction to the prior most recent earnings, and then the most recent earnings coming through. RS lines turning up. Two high quality growth funds in there. Wells Fargo Growth actually initiating a position in Q3 of 2022. So looking at this more so as a potential cup and handle, maybe around 180. It sets up on the 10 EMA and looking for that trigger bar, but just needs to set up in there, and then that's where I'll be looking to target. Obviously, kind of that Bayesian way of thinking, just watching, waiting, see where it sets up. But you see over here, I get this perfect trigger bar coming through. Look how the volume dries up. 1021.50 SMA, nice reference point to be looking for setup. So I'm looking for this really tight price action, what I call a trigger bar. Search the channel, you'll find a lot about that. But yep, that one there is one that I'm keeping an eye on. I've got two more to show you. So the first one here is going to be CF, which is an ag related stock, so very consistently high earnings, sales, margins, high quality growth. And see how Fidelity initiate a position in Q2 2022, add in Q3, then add in Q4 again. Now I quite like how this one's setting up. Really liquid stock. RS lines look pretty good. Big shakeout demand tail on the earnings, as on the earnings date, or very close to the earnings date. I think it was after the earnings date they reported, so that's kind of the reaction. But turned out to be a big shakeout demand tail underneath $100, but it just needs a little bit of work here. But I like the reference point of 1021 and 50 SMA. I like this big base. You look at this, starting to build these higher lows, nice big shakeout. So I actually like to see a big shakeout demand tail, and then for a tight pivot point to set. So now what I'm kind of looking for is some action like this. See how tight the price action gets in there. That's the 1021.50 SMA. In here as well, it gets pretty tight with that trigger bar. So can it just tighten up in here a little bit? That's what I'll be looking for. Maybe this week. It needs probably at least a couple of days, maybe a week, maybe a couple of weeks, depends how it kind of plays out, this one. But this is one that I'm watching very closely. I like this basing action. Then finally, this one here, this is SQM. This is a lithium related stock. There are some other lithium stocks, ALB in particular, I think is pretty darn strong. You got LTHM, PLL is another one. SGML, that's one I messed up the trade management on, but that one looks very strong as well. So what I like here is the reference point of the 1021 and 50 SMA. Jesse Livermore, psychological level of around $100. So it's starting to build these high lows. Okay, see how it's building these high lows in here like this. A couple of shakeout demand tails coming through. Now earnings are coming up in 9 days at the time of filming this, so something for me to be thinking about there from a risk management standpoint. Obviously the closer you get to earnings, the kind of less probability you have of being able to free roll. So I like to free roll ahead of earnings and have at least a profit cushion going into it as well. So maybe I buy it before, maybe I buy it after, maybe I never buy it, I don't know. That's kind of the Bayesian way of thinking, just updating your decision making process. But if it can tighten up in the next couple of days, and I think I've got enough time to potentially get in there, free roll it, have a profit cushion going into the earnings, maybe it tightens up going into the earnings, and then it breaks through, say around about $100 pivot point on the earnings. So I'd rather it move through instead of gap above. But this stock here has a history of being able to make some pretty good runs as well. Volume is starting to dry up, earnings there, sales there, after tax margins there, looks really strong, as do many of these lithium stocks. And then you could look at this as one big basing action as well. So that's it, guys. I'll wrap it up there. Hopefully you've enjoyed that video. If you'd like me to do other videos like this on a regular basis, say with the Market Smith the Growth 250 list or some other lists on Market Smith, then please do comment down below. Please like the video, subscribe if you're new, and as always I look forward to seeing you in a future video.